Jeremiah 29:11 reads, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future." I feel like I'm living that plan out. I feel like the things that happen to us in life, they're not designed to stop us. They're designed to reposition us so we can come in contact with what God really has for us. So everything that I do, man, I do it to honor God because I feel like God gave me a second chance at life. And so I feel like I'm doing what God put me on earth to do.
You see, my mother had me when she was 15 years old, right? Over on the east side of Atlanta, we came up in this neighborhood by the name of Kirkwood, drug dealer on every corner, gang members in the neighborhood, 2-bedroom home, 14 people. We used to sleep on the floor. Got the opportunity to sleep in the bed one time out of the week. There was 6 of us in the bed, 3 at the foot, 3 at the head. And I came up with this dream pretty quick. I said, man, I want to go to the NFL because I had 8 uncles in that house, all 8 of which are still going in and out of prison. And so pretty quick, I said, man, I want to go to the NFL. So I went to my big cousin Kamar one night. I said, man, listen, I want to go to the NFL, so we got to work for this thing. So the thing we're going to do every night, we're going to be patient, we're going to engage in consistent action. Every night, we're going to race light pole to light pole, no shoot. So every night, we would get out in the street, race light pole to light pole. One night, a coach came down the street. He signed me and my cousins up for organized sports, right? First time being in organized sports. We get in organized sports. The thing was, after practice, everybody would leave to go home. And I always had to sit on the bench and wait on my mother because she worked that way. And so when my mother would show up in the park, it would be about 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night. So I'm sitting there, and when my mother would pull up, she drove an old rear Regal, hubcaps off the car, seats torn up, the car was all beat up. And she would pull up in the park 10:30 at night. I would jump off the bench. I would sprint over to my mother. I would say, Mom, if you don't mind, can you please sit back in your car and turn on your car lights? I have to do some extra drills. I have to go to the NFL. She would never have to work another day in her life. And I come into my junior year, and I'm about to get exactly what I want. About to get this thing called NFL. And I'm 10 games away from this dream that I wanted my whole life, right? This thing that I've been working for my whole life. My whole life is dedicated to this one game. I'm up Saturday mornings, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, 2 miles to a fire station, 2 miles back home. I'm in the park, 9:30, 10 at night, doing everything in my life surrounded the game of football. I'm sitting at home at night. I'm throwing balls up to the ceiling, and I'm catching them different type of ways, trying to see if a receiver was to check me, if I wanted to catch an interception. Like everything revolved around this game, and I finally get in a position in my life to where now I'm 10 games away from it. I got the paperwork that states I'm about to be an NFL draft pick. NFL on top of the paper. Inky Johnson projected top 30 automatic multi-millionaire. Now all you have to do, the hard part's over. Just play the next 10 football games, Ink. You made it. Anything, man. I still remember the day I was in the film room watching film, and I was watching the California Bears, and my defensive backs coach, Larry Slade, came in the room. He said, Inky Johnson, I got some good news for you. And I dropped the clicker, and I said, Coach, what is it? He said, son, you're a projected top 30 draft pick. He said, all you have to do is play these next 10 football games. You're an automatic multi-millionaire. I ran out of the room. I got on the phone. I called my mother and my grandmother. I said, listen. I said, after this season, our lives are about to change forever. And little did I know our lives were really about to change. First game, we come out, play against California Bears. I get an interception. We shut them down. We get the victory. Second game, we're playing against Air Force. It gets late in the game. We found ourselves in a dogfight. And I approached the tackle like I approach any other tackle. And the way I'm approaching it, you never knock me out or you gonna knock me out. I'm 165 pounds. I can't play with anybody. But at the point of contact, when I hit this guy, something different happened. It never happened to me before in my life. I hit him, and it seemed as if every breath in my body left. My body went completely limp. I fell to the ground. I blacked out. I looked at the doctor because I couldn't feel my right arm. They had poked me with all types of needles. They took me back, they ran the CAT scans, they rolled me back into my room, and I'll never forget it. All in about a 15-second time frame. I was lying there in my bed. My father, he went to take a step in, and he looked at me and said, son, I can't. He walked out. My mother, she came in, she was running, she kissed me on my forehead, she said a prayer, she said, Ink, everything is going to be okay. She ran out. And as soon as my mother stepped outside of the room, the doctor rushed in from the opposite side and said, hey, get in here, we got to rush this guy back to emergency surgery, he's about to die. I'm gonna land the plane with this, fellas. Have any of you guys are pretty young. I don't know if you ever seen the movie Troy. I love movies, right? Because I pull messages from movies. And so with the movie Troy, the whole concept and basis of the movie Troy, they were fighting for territory, right? And Brad Pitt was the star. But in the movie, Brad Pitt's name was Achilles, right? He was that guy. But the way they would fight for territory, you could show up and say, hey man, I want to go tribe versus tribe, right? Or you could show up and say, hey man, I feel like I got one of the coldest warriors in the land and you don't have anybody in your tribe that can do anything with them. I want to go warrior versus warrior. And so because Brad Pitt, Achilles, was so cold-blooded, whenever they would show up, his king would never say, I want to go tribe versus tribe. His king would always show up and say, I want to go warrior versus warrior. He would say, I don't think you got nobody in your tribe that could do anything with Achilles. And they was fighting for land. And so Achilles got to the point, he was like, man, we got enough land. Like, this guy's just getting greedy. He just want to keep taking land. Like, he just want to keep taking property. We cool. And so he was getting weary. And so they came to him one day and was like, man, we got 2 more battles. We just got to finish. After this, they say we're done.
When I hear the word courage, it takes me back to the space and place and the words that say, do you remember who you were before the world told you who you should be? Right? Like courage. Do you remember who you were before the world told you who you should be? And so anytime you got to be courageous, let's look at it from the standpoint of dreams, goals, and aspirations. You got your dream, your goal, and your aspiration, and then you got reality, right? And oftentimes reality doesn't reflect the goal, the dream, and the aspiration. And so when you think courage, like being courageous and following your heart because it somehow knows what you want to do anyway, like it's almost like instinct. Right? It's almost like when you feel something that you should do, and for some strange reason, like your mind or your spirit tells you, nah, I don't want to do it, because it takes you outside of your comfort zone and it puts you in a space and place that may be unknown, or it puts you in a space and place of uncharted territory, but you know you should do it, you can feel it, right? And then you go against it. And all it does is make the route a lot longer. That's all it does, right? It's like when you think about God's plan for your life. God's plan for your life is gonna manifest. You can delay it, right, by being stubborn, but the plan is gonna manifest. That's why I said Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope in the future. The plan gonna happen.
Yes.
We can delay it, right? When we don't wanna be courageous, when we don't wanna encounter that level of faith that we know we need along our journey for our goals, dreams, and aspirations. You can delay it, but courage, that's a different ball game.
First and foremost, I just want to express my gratitude to the whole Aflac team. Thank you all so much for giving me this opportunity. I want to express my gratitude to Brent and to Kelsey. Thank you guys so much for that intro. I told Kelsey not to say dynamic athlete. I was an underdog. I could play a little bit, but I was an underdog for the most part. But as I stand right here on this stage before you tonight, you know, a lot of thoughts come to mind. You know, first and foremost, I think about my life, and I think about adversity, and I think about opposition. But for the most part of my life, I've been on this quest to figure out, how can I work hard for something and my performance is not based upon the outcome? How can I work and my effort and my motivation and my drive is not based upon what the product will be, but more so based upon me taking pride in what I do? And so I came up with this thing called process over product, and I firmly believe the process saved my life. And what I mean by the process, I'm talking about the way I handle my business on a daily basis and the way I go about every single aspect of my life. I live by this thing called empty the bucket. And when people hear it, they think it's a cute slogan, empty the bucket, but what they don't understand, it's an unspoken law. Empty the bucket is an unspoken law of accountability and responsibility to me on this earth and my existence and everybody that's connected to me. I may be crazy, but I don't know. I just believe that I'm supposed to give everybody that is connected to me the best version of me. I just believe I deserve to give my wife and my children the best version of me. I just believe the people that I'm a service to on this earth, I deserve to give them the best version of me.
It's like the first time I told a cat I have gratitude in advance, cat say, how can I be grateful for something that hasn't happened yet? And I was like, that's the whole basis and premise of what we're trying to get to, right? But I think of a couple of things when I think about gratitude. I think about totality and I think about process, right? Because like we both know things are gonna happen, things are gonna go our way, things are not gonna go our way. And more times than not, as a person, it's very easy
and simplistic to be grateful for things that go our way. No problem with it, right? Easy. We get the money, we get the food on the table, we get what we want.
So I went to Crim High School, one of the lowest performing public schools in the whole state of Georgia. Dropout rate higher than the graduation rate. People didn't go to college. I went to Crim my first day. I walked through the doors. The metal detective cop said, "What's your plan, little man?" I said, "My plan is to go D1." He said, "Nah, you'll probably end up in cell block." I said, "Nah, you got the wrong guy." He said, "Nah, you'll probably end up in cell block." I said, "Nah, you got the wrong guy." After my freshman year, my mother and father both came to me. They said, "Look, transfer you from this place. You got a scholarship at Crim High School." They said, "All you have to do is come and pay the next 2 years. Guaranteed the scholarship." I said, "Please, leave me at one of the lowest performing public schools in the whole state. I can get a scholarship for this, but son, nobody goes to college from there. Please, let me stay here. I can make it from this place." They transferred me anyway. First football game, tore the ligaments in my ankle, out for the season, ended up in a wheelchair. Went back to my parents, "Will you please transfer me back to one of the lowest performing public schools in the whole state of Georgia?" My pastor said, "Inky, you really want to go there?" I said, "Please transfer me back there. I need to go back there." And so the summer going into my senior year, we got blessed with a new coach. He came to me, I was done with football. He said, "Man, please come and work out for me. Just do one workout for me." I said, "Okay, coach, I'll come out, I'll work out." I ran a 40-yard dash, I did some cone drills. He came up to me after the workout, he said, "Son, what college do you want to go to?" I said, "Man, I just want to go to one." And I go out in a silly game against Air Force, 2 minutes left, and I go to make a tackle that I can make with my eyes closed. And I hit this guy, and as soon as I hit him, I knew it was a problem, but I didn't think it would be this type of problem. Like, you know how when things happen, you're like, I didn't expect that, but I don't think it's gonna be anything too crazy. And when I hit him, every breath in my body left, my body goes completely limp, I fall to the ground, I blacked out, my eyes open, I'm still not, too concerned, because it's football. I told Pastor, I never thought about a career-ending injury. You can have injuries within the game. When my eyes open, guys run over, "Ink, let's rock, man, let's go, let's finish him off." And I'm like, I can't. I'm like, "What do you mean you can't? You're our starting corner, get up, you can nurse your injury after the game, man." I'm like, "No, I can't." They said, "What do you mean you can't?" I said, "I can't move. It's a shock, neck to my toes, I can't feel anything. Shock leaves, it stays in my right arm and hand." I'm like, maybe I got a bad stinger. They put me on the spine board, wheeling me off the field. Doctor says to me as he's walking beside me, "I don't know how you're still alive, son. You don't have any pulse." We get to the ambulance. My father's standing there. I'm like, "Pops, I laid it on him, right? I put it on him, right?" My dad's like, "Yeah, but I think you got the worst part of this one." Doctor said, "We're going to take you over, run a couple tests, bring you back into the room. Everything will be cool." They run the test. They bring me back into the room. Mom comes in, kisses, prays. "Son, you'll be fine." She's going to walk out. Doctors rush in. Head boy says, "Hey, man, we got to rush him back to surgery. He's about to die." And I look at him and I want to ask him, like, "Man, you can't use another word. Like, use a synonym, brother. You gotta say die. Like, you sure die, man?" And he can tell from how I'm looking at him that I'm questioning. I said, "What?" I said, "My mom just told me everything's going to be okay." He said, "Son, what happened? You have busted up subclavian artery in your chest. You're bleeding internally. Have to rush you back and take the main vein out of your left leg and plug it into your chest in order to save your life." And when I woke up from recovery, the same doctor was standing over me. He said, "Inky, that's some good news and some bad news for you." I said, "You got some bad news for me? After telling me I'm about to die, I'm still alive. How bad can it get? I'm still here." He said, "The good news is, son, we saved your life." I said, "Thank you, sir." He said, "The bad news is you have nerve damage in your right shoulder. You probably can never play the game of football again in your life." I said, "Doc, no disrespect, man, but I'm 8 games away. I've been working for this ever since I was 7 years old. Doc, there's no way. God, not now, God. Like, let me make it to the NFL so I can help my family first. Like, we miss meals." I said, "There's no way. I never cheated. I never cheated myself. I gave everything I had to it, and I respected it. I never cheated. There's no way that my career could be over." I said, "Send me up to the Mayo Clinic." And after several visits, I'll never forget, this is when reality set in. It was me, my mother, my father in the room, and the doctors came in. They said, "Inky Johnson, here's the deal." They said, "Son, we hate to tell you, but your arm, it would never be the same again. Your hand, it would never be the same again. Son, you can never play the game of football again." Kelly was like, "Man, I'm cool." And so they went to the battle before the last battle, right? It's like your conference championship before the national championship. right? And when they arrived, they were there, and the opposite king came across, and Achilles' king said, how you want to do this, man? How you want to get down? How you want to fight for it? And this time, somebody was on the same frequency that he was on. The opposite king, instead of saying, I want to go tribe versus tribe, now he said, I want to go warrior versus warrior. He said, I feel like I got somebody in my tribe that you don't have anybody in your tribe can do anything with, my man. Of course, Achilles' king is like, what? Cool, that's how we fight. That's how we get down anyway. Let's go. And so the tribe was behind him. And so the opposite king calls out his warrior. And so his warrior steps out, and I'm talking about my man 6'5", talking about 260, ripped up, baby oil, traps up to his ears. Talking about my man, I'm talking about straight gorilla style, right? He steps out, pats his chest. His boys are screaming. They like, this our guy. We know y'all don't have anybody over there that can do anything with him. And the whole time he walking to the front with his spear, like it's over with. We're gonna take this land and we're gonna get back to where we gotta get to. And so Brad Pitt's king just called his name. He said, Achilles. Nobody popped out. So when nobody popped out, what does the warrior do? He pipe up even more.
Forward in the face of opposition, adversity, uncertainty, different ball game, but the question remains, do you remember who you were before the world told you who you should be? That's the essence of courage to me. Because when you think about true courage, I look at it as a person being who they authentically were made to be. In every avenue, in every aspect of their life. When they walk out of the door in the morning, they are who they're supposed to be. It takes courage to be that. Right? It takes courage not to walk into a room and not try to be a chameleon and blend in and be somebody else. It takes courage, right? I was talking to a dude the other day and he said, man, my son heard me get on a conference call, and when I hung up, my son said, Dad, why you talk different? Courage, right? His son looked at him and said, Dad, why you talk different? And he's like, well, I gotta explain code switching to my son. Cool, it's a space and place for that. It takes courage to pick up their phone and sound the same. Conducting your business, but you sound the same, right? It takes courage that the people that know you professionally and in your private life, they say, nah, that's the same cat. That takes courage, right? As simplistic as it may sound, everybody can't do that. Everybody don't reflect that, right?
I remember the first time I read James chapter 1. And it said, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith goes on to produce perseverance. And perseverance must finish its race, so that you may be complete and lacking nothing. It broke it down and told you why you needed to be grateful and thankful for the opposition, the adversity, the trial, and the tribulation, right? Because it produces a level of perseverance, right? Now, when you think gratitude, oftentimes we're grateful, like you said, things go our way, yeah, cool, right? But the true press of gratitude to me is King's quote. Judge the true character and caliber of a person, not by where they stand in times of comfort and convenience. Judge the true character and caliber of a person by where they stand in times of trial and opposition, challenge, controversy, right? Can you be grateful when it doesn't come to you in the form of which you expected? Growth comes in many forms, right? Just in the form of what you didn't expect, can you still be grateful for it? Because you can still get or become the person that you're aspiring to become, even when it doesn't come to you in the form of what you expected. Growth happens in many forms, right? Blessings happen in many forms through many people, right? It happens in many forms. Can we be grateful when it doesn't come in the form of which we expect, right? That's the true press of gratitude to me. Every single day being grateful if my happiness shows up in a different form of which I expected. Yes. Being grateful if my joy shows up in a different form from which I expected. Being grateful if my peace shows up in a different form from which I expected.
Son, here are your surgery options. We can take a muscle out of the back of your left leg, plug it into your right arm, but there's a possibility that you'll be left with a weak left leg and a weak right arm the rest of your life. Or we can take a nerve out of your left arm, reroute it up to your chest, down into your right arm, but there's a possibility that you'll be left with 2 weak arms the rest of your life. Or we can take a nerve out of your left rib, reroute it up to your chest, down into your right arm, but there's a possibility that you'll be left with a breathing problem and a weak right arm the rest of your life. By the way, tell us what you want to do in the morning. And the next morning I walked into the doctor's office. They said, son, what option did you choose? I said, no disrespect to you, doc. I'm not choosing an option. My situation is out of your hands. I said, no disrespect to you, doc. Cut me where you gotta cut me. I said, I know I will come out of this situation, okay? As I stand right on this stage before you today, they cut me 6 times down my left thigh. They cut me 2 times across my right rib. They cut me 2 times across my right pec. They cut me 1 time across the left side of my neck, 1 time across the right side of my neck. They cut me from the bottom of my armpit all the way down to the bottom of my hand. And after they got through cutting on me, they said, son, you're gonna be in this hospital for the next 40 days. I walked out of the hospital the 3rd day. They said, you broke a record. How did you do it? And I said, first and foremost, the thing I want y'all to understand, I would never let a circumstance or a situation define my life. But most importantly, you know what I had invested? I had sweat equity. I had been working my whole life. And what I didn't understand, by being determined to chase something, by being committed to it, and what commitment is staying true to what you said you were going to do long after the mood that you have set it in has left. You see, people think commitment is saying, yes, I'll do it on the days when it feels good. But I have been committed to everything that I ever started in my life, and I never stopped and I never quit it. And so by being committed to everything that I started, I finished it. It built a certain type of spirit. It built a certain type of mentality. It built a certain type of individual. And so now I couldn't quit even if I wanted to. I couldn't lay in the bed even if I wanted to. I couldn't stop even if I wanted to. I had too much sweat equity in my life and everything that I was doing.
I know you're not hearing me, son. What college do you want to go to? I said, man, I just want to go D1. He said, after the first couple of games, we'll put together a tape and we'll see what happens. After the first 2 games, I had 9 touchdowns. That's all she wrote from there. And I'll never forget the day the University of Tennessee came in and a coach took a chance on me. He sat down with me and he said, son, I want to offer you a full scholarship to the University of Tennessee. It was so crazy. I responded and I told him, I'm coming. And he laughed. He said, son, I don't even think you understand how the whole process works. I said, no, I don't think you understand. I said, you're talking to a kid that comes from a 2-bedroom home, 14 people. You're talking to a kid that every morning when I caught the bus, I would race to be the first one at the bus stop, and I'll be standing there shaking my book bag and my jackets out to make sure there were no roaches and rats. So when I tell you I am coming, I am coming. You don't even have to waste the university's money. I don't have to see the campus. I don't have to see the city. You offer me a scholarship, I'm coming. He said, yeah, but I still want you to take an official visit. I agreed. I went up on a Friday night. I'll never forget, they took me to Calvary on the river, some restaurant in Knoxville, Tennessee. We come out, we got a host, right? And so the job of a host is supposed to show you a great time on campus, take you to parties, make you fall in love with the place. And so I come out with my host and he said, hey, there's a sorority party, there's a barbecue, and there's a basketball game. Which one would you like to go to? I said, man, if you don't mind, can you take me to my hotel? We pull up to the hotel, I'm getting out of the car. He said, wait, are you sick? I said, no, I'm not sick. You see, what my host didn't understand, that night at the Marriott, that was my first time staying in the bed by myself. Think I cared about a sorority party? Think I cared about a barbecue or a basketball game? And he says to me, you ruptured a subclavian artery in your chest, you bleed internally. If we don't perform this surgery tonight, I guarantee you, you won't be here no more. 7 years old, 20 years old, down to one moment. Sacrifice, dedication, commitment came down to one moment. And the next morning I woke up from that surgery. NFL on my scale of life. That SEC championship. Cornerback. I'm sitting there and people coming into my room like, Inky, man, I'm sorry about what happened to you. And I'm saying to myself, man, Inky, you really messed it up this time. Man, that's really the only thing you wanted, huh? Like you just thought because you grew up in this so-called hood, 2-bedroom home, 14 people, you really wanted was the NFL, that's it. I'm like, man, you limited God to that? Like life holds no substance, no value? Like efficient but not effective? I did things right, but I never did the right thing? And now the thing I place my identity in, now it's gone. That's why I laugh at people when they say, man, if I could just get this, I'll be. Man, if I could just get this position, I'll be. Woo! Man, if I could just get this amount of money, I'll be. I'm like.
Because in his mind, he's thinking what? Well, they gotta be scared. And so he starts screaming again, let's go! He turns around to his guys, let's go, it's over with for him. They screaming. The king screams out again, Achilles! One of the guys step out from the tribe, they come up to the front and say, hey, king, man, Achilles not even at the battle. He was like, where is he? They say, he back at the village. He said, go get him. They show up in the village, Achilles sleep. They wake him up. They're like, hey man, the king got a battle for you to fight. He was like, tell him I'll be there in the morning. They said, it is morning. He was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna get dressed. And as he's getting dressed, the guy that came to get him was telling him about the opposition that he had to face. The guy that came to get him was like, hey man, I don't think you ever faced anybody like this. Like this guy's big, he's strong. Like I don't think you ever went up against anybody like this. Like this guy looks like incredible. He looks like a Greek god. And Achilles just getting dressed, not saying a word. And so when he finishes getting dressed, he goes and he gets on the horse. And so when he gets on the horse, the guy that was telling him about the opposition and adversity says to him, man, why don't you ever back down? Like, why don't you ever retreat? Why don't you ever look at the opposition and say, nah, man, I'm cool. Like, why don't you ever settle? Why don't you ever show up and say to the king, like, nah, man, this time we can go tribe versus tribe? Achilles looked at him and said, that's why they'll never remember your name. He said, because your greatness and your excellence is predicated upon what you up against. And so if you up against something that you think you can defeat, you're going to be great. Right? That's why they'll never remember your name. That's why Liberty will probably never remember your name. Because your greatness and excellence is predicated upon, if I get an easy task, I'm going to be great and I'm going to give everything I got to it. But when there's adversity and opposition present or a challenge present, you pipe down and you don't want to go for it. And so when he showed up to the battle, he annihilated my man in 30 seconds. You see, the thing about chasing a product and what the product is money. The product is a house, the product is a car. The thing about chasing a product can always change. And if your performance is always based upon the product, what happens when the products change and you don't take pride in what you do? But the thing about loving the process, everybody wants to prize, but nobody loves the process. Everybody wants to be a champion, but nobody's willing to put in the work that it takes to be a champion. Everybody wants to hold up the trophy and say, man, I did it, but nobody's willing to put in the work that it takes to do it. I love the process. I love the thought of working for what I want. And I firmly believe you're never supposed to wish for it more than you're willing to work for it. Your expectations never supposed to exceed your effort. But a lot of people, they wish, and they're not willing to work. And the great thing about life has a funny way of testing all of us and seeing how bad we really want what it is that we say we want. Because the thing I know about people can talk the talk. And people do it very well. But life is going to hit you with a certain level of opposition. Life is going to hit you with a certain level of adversity. And life is going to say to you, you said you wanted it, now let's see how bad you really want it.
Let's take it. Sports, business, life, right? And so for a young cat, I'll never forget, I was in high school, right? And I had dropped probably 35 points, right? And cats come over to me after the game, hey, great job, man, you did your thing, right? And I'm getting ready to walk out of the gym. My dad come over, Ink, put your bag down. I'm like, man, not tonight, man. Not tonight, bro. I just got busy, not tonight. Hey, man, when you was coming down the court on the other side, on the left side, why you put the ball in the right hand and go to lay up the ball in the right? Why you didn't keep the ball in the left?
That's what we were talking about.
And I'm like,
yeah, that's what we were talking about.
I made the layup. It ain't that deep. Yeah, but you gonna meet a team sooner than later. All they gonna do is just line up on your right side and make you go left. And if you haven't developed your left hand, just because you can do it, Ink, doesn't mean that you should do it, right? And oftentimes we feel like we don't have to value something if our talent and our skill allows us to get a certain result, that we shouldn't really be getting, but because the talent and the skill set may be so high, it's allowing it to a certain standpoint. And then sooner or later, you're gonna encounter something and it's gonna dismantle you, bruh. It's gonna crush you.